Have you ever looked at the news, whether it's on your TV, your phone, or in the headlines flashing across your screen, and felt a sense of unease? Maybe you've caught yourself wondering if there's something bigger happening beneath the surface, something that connects all these troubling events, and wondered what's really going on. It's not just the headlines that make us pause, it's the feeling that the world is changing faster than we can keep up, and not always for the better. You see the worry in people's faces, the uncertainty in their eyes, and you can't help but ask, is this normal? Or is something extraordinary unfolding? Leaders make promises they can't keep. Nations threaten each other with words and weapons, tensions simmer at the highest levels, and sometimes it feels like the world is teetering on the edge of something we can't quite name. Prices soar, and even basic needs like food, shelter, and security feel out of reach for many. The cost of living rises, and families everywhere are forced to make difficult choices just to get by. Death is a constant reminder of our fragility. Illness, loss, and grief touch every community, reminding us how vulnerable we really are, no matter how advanced our world seems. It's enough to make you think we're living out an ancient story, one that's been told for generations. Sometimes it feels as if history is repeating itself, or maybe fulfilling a script written long ago. The book of Revelation, the Bible's final chapter, is filled with symbols and prophecies that sound eerily familiar today. Its pages describe chaos, upheaval, and a world in turmoil, images that seem to echo our own headlines. John wrote about four horsemen: conquest, war, famine, and death, each bringing their own kind of trouble. These figures have haunted imaginations for centuries, representing forces that shape the fate of nations and individuals alike. Are these just old symbols, or are they riding today, right through the heart of our modern world? Are we witnessing their shadows in our daily lives, or are they simply metaphors from a distant past? The world feels off balance, and the systems we trust, our governments, our economies, our communities, seem to be straining under the weight of uncertainty. It's as if the very foundations we rely on are being tested. People are searching for answers, for something solid to hold on to. In times of confusion, we look for meaning, for hope, and for guidance that can help us make sense of the chaos. So let's take a closer look at these four riders and see if their presence can be felt in our world. This isn't about fear, it's about understanding, about facing the unknown with open eyes and a willing heart. You can't solve a problem if you refuse to face it. The first step is to acknowledge what's happening, to ask the hard questions, and to seek out the truth even when it's uncomfortable. We'll examine the signs, compare them to the ancient text, and see how they line up with today. By looking at history, prophecy, and current events side by side, we can begin to see patterns and maybe even find answers. If these riders are out there, we need to know who they are and what they represent. Understanding their meaning could be the key to navigating the challenges ahead. Most importantly, we need to know what we're supposed to do about it. How can we respond, not with panic but with purpose? What choices can we make to bring light into dark times? It's not easy to look at the world's problems head-on, but it's necessary. Together, we can face the uncertainty, seek understanding, and find hope. Let's get started. The first rider awaits. The first horseman arrives on a white horse, bow in hand, crowned and bent on conquest. White usually means purity, but here, it's a disguise. This rider looks like a savior, promising peace and unity. He offers simple solutions to complex problems, and people are eager to follow. But his real weapon is deception. He brings a false peace, a counterfeit hope. History is full of charismatic leaders who promise everything and deliver chaos. This horseman represents global movements that promise utopia but lead to control and lost freedom. He conquers with lies, not armies. The Bible warns us, many will come claiming to have the answers, deceiving many. The real message of Jesus is about inner change, humility, and serving others, not flashy promises. So how do you tell the difference? Look at the results. Does the message bring freedom or control? Does it point to God or to a human leader? The white horseman's peace depends on surrendering your judgment to his system. The peace of Christ is different. It lives inside you no matter what's happening outside. It's not about a new world order but a new heart. That's a crucial distinction. Don't be fooled by appearances. Discernment is more important than ever. The next rider brings a different kind of trouble. The second rider charges in on a fiery red horse, his presence impossible to ignore. He wields a sword, not just as a weapon, but as a symbol of the violence and division he brings. The air crackles with tension as he gallops forward, his arrival signaling the end of peace and the beginning of strife. His mission is clear and chilling: to take peace from the earth, to ignite conflict wherever he goes, and to set people against each other. He sows seeds of discord, turning friends into foes and neighbors into adversaries. Under his influence, even the closest bonds can be shattered. This is war, raw, brutal conflict that leaves scars on both land and soul. Explosions tear through cities, soldiers clash in muddy trenches, and the world trembles under the weight of endless fighting. The devastation is not just physical, but emotional and spiritual as well. It's the breakdown of society, where the fabric of community unravels. Neighbor turns on neighbor, families are torn apart, and nations clash in bitter struggle. Civilians flee their homes, seeking safety from violence that seems to have no end. Today we see wars erupting across continents, civil unrest boiling over in city streets, and deep divisions everywhere we look. The headlines are filled with stories of conflict, sometimes far away, sometimes right next door. The world feels more fractured than ever. The red horse represents the spirit of division and relentless conflict. He is the embodiment of anger, suspicion, and the urge to fight rather than reconcile. His influence is felt in every heated argument and every act of violence. His sword is not just literal, it's the anger in our hearts, the hateful words we type online, the tribalism that divides us into camps. It's the suspicion that makes us see enemies where there are none, and the pride that refuses to listen or forgive. He thrives on chaos and fuels resentment, feeding off every spark of outrage and every act of retaliation. The more we give into anger, the stronger he becomes, turning our communities into battlegrounds. When people are afraid and angry, they're easy to control. Leaders exploit these emotions, using fear to tighten their grip and justify harsh measures. In the confusion, it becomes harder to know who to trust. The peace that's lost isn't just the absence of war, it's the loss of trust, the breakdown of community, and the silence that falls when people no longer feel safe together. It's the emptiness in places once filled with laughter and connection. The Bible's antidote: love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. In a world that urges us to fight back, these words are radical. They call us to respond to hatred with compassion and to seek understanding instead of revenge. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." True peacemakers don't just avoid conflict, they actively work to heal wounds, bridge divides, and bring light into the darkness. They are the quiet heroes who refuse to let anger win. Real peace isn't about winning arguments or crushing opposition. It's about listening, forgiving, and finding common ground. It's about building bridges where others build walls, and choosing hope over fear. It's a peace that comes from a higher source, one that can exist even when the world is in turmoil. This peace is resilient, unshaken by the storms of conflict, and rooted in something deeper than circumstance. That's the only real defense against the Red Horseman. When we choose peace, we deny him his power. When we stand together in love, his sword loses its edge. His sword can't touch a peace that isn't of this world. In the quiet of faith, in the strength of community, we find a refuge that no conflict can destroy. The world's anger is loud, but true peace is quiet and resilient. It endures, even when everything else falls apart. But the story doesn't end here. The next writer brings a different kind of crisis, one that strikes at our very survival. Are we ready for him? Let's find out. The Black Horse approaches, and with him, scarcity, hunger, and a new test for humanity's spirit. The third horseman rides a black horse, holding a pair of scales. A voice declares, "A quart of wheat for a day's wages." This is famine and economic collapse. The scales symbolize commerce gone wrong, hyperinflation and scarcity. Today we see supply chain issues, crop failures, and rising prices everywhere. People work harder, but their money buys less. The gap between rich and poor grows wider. The Black Horseman turns basic needs into luxuries. Don't damage the oil and wine. The wealthy remain insulated while the rest struggle. This isn't just theory, it's real hardship. Desperation forces impossible choices: how to feed your family, how to pay rent. The anxiety of economic instability is crushing. The Black Horse rides on this fear, trapping people in a rigged system. The Bible doesn't promise believers an easy life, but it does offer a new perspective. Trust in God's provision, not in fragile systems. Jesus taught not to worry about tomorrow. God cares for the birds and the lilies, and He cares for us. This isn't a call to laziness, but to shift our trust. Generosity and faith are the antidotes to fear. Our security isn't in a bank account, but in a faithful provider. The next rider is the most fearsome of all. Death rides in. The fourth horseman rides a pale, corpse-colored horse, its hooves barely making a sound as it moves through the mist. The air grows colder and the world seems to hold its breath as this spectral figure approaches. His name is Death, the most feared of all, and Hades, the realm of the dead, follows close behind, like a shadow that cannot be outrun. Together they're given power over a fourth of the earth, to kill by sword, famine, plague, and wild beasts. These are not just ancient symbols, but realities that echo through history and into our present day. This is the culmination of the other riders: deception, conflict, scarcity, all leading inevitably to this moment. Each disaster, each war, each lie, and every shortage has paved the way for Death's arrival. We've seen, in our own time, how quickly pandemics and disasters can upend our world. In a matter of days, cities fall silent, hospitals overflow, and the routines of daily life are shattered. The pale horse is a stark reminder of life's fragility and the ever-present threat of death. It stands as a symbol of the limits of human power and the reality that no one is immune to mortality. The wild beasts may symbolize a breakdown of order or the rise of predatory human behavior in desperate times. When the structures of society collapse, chaos and fear can bring out the animal instincts in us all. When society collapses, the worst in humanity often emerges. People fight for survival, trust erodes, and the bonds that once held communities together are tested to their breaking point. This rider is the ultimate consequence of a world that turns its back on its creator. When faith is abandoned and hope is lost, the doors open for death to reign. But even here the message isn't despair. In the darkest moments there is still a glimmer of light, a chance to come together, to support one another, and to find meaning in the struggle. It's a wake-up call, a chance for repentance and moral revival. The presence of death forces us to reflect, to reconsider our choices, and to seek a higher purpose. Death forces us to confront life's biggest questions. What comes after? What have I done with my time? Have I lived with compassion, with courage, with faith? The pale horse shatters complacency. It breaks through the illusion that life will always go on as it has, reminding us that every moment is precious and every choice matters. It's an invitation to turn back to God, to seek forgiveness and hope beyond death. In the face of the inevitable, we are offered a chance to find peace and redemption. The choice is stark: the finality of Hades or the promise of heaven. Each of us stands at a crossroads, with eternity hanging in the balance. Even in the face of death, there's a path to life. Renewal is possible, hope can bloom in the most unlikely places, and the story can take a new turn. The story doesn't end here. Out of ruin, new beginnings can emerge. Out of darkness, light can break through. There's one more message we need to hear, a message that calls us to listen, to open our hearts, and to prepare for what comes next. It's a message of hope. Let's listen, not with fear, but with expectation for what is possible beyond the end. The final word is not fear, it is hope, and the promise that even in the unavoidable end, a new beginning awaits. We've seen the four riders: conquest, war, famine, and death. It's a sobering picture, but it's not the whole story. Revelation wasn't written to terrify, but to give hope to people in hard times. Even when chaos seems to win, God is still in control. The horsemen's power is limited, they're part of a bigger plan. The real message is about God's ultimate victory, not the horsemen's destruction. Darkness doesn't get the final say. Fear paralyzes and divides us, but faith is the antidote. Faith lets us see beyond the crisis to a hope that endures. There's purpose in suffering, a plan in chaos, and a promise of redemption. Trust in God's character, even when the world falls apart. This isn't about ignoring reality, but facing it with a different spirit. Readiness, not panic. Peace, not anxiety. Hope, not despair. The hoofbeats of the four horsemen may echo, but there's another sound to listen for. It's the sound of a trumpet, the promise of a king who will return to make all things new. He will wipe away every tear and end deception, war, famine, and death for good. That's the message worth holding on to. In the end, hope wins. The story isn't over, and neither are we.